In this video, we're going to talk about a topic that maybe isn't talked about nearly as much as perhaps it should be talked about. We're going to talk about your resumes. So there's a lot to talk about. We're going to jump right into it. But before we jump into it, I want to thank my friend Rahul for suggesting this content. If you would like a video made on something, consider buying me a coffee and letting me know what you think. Now, your resume can make or break your cybersecurity career. Most companies tend to weed out the content that's on the resume, so you want to make sure that you're getting past that HR firewall. And it's also paramount to make sure that your resume sticks out of the pile and shows the interviewing team that you are who they are looking for. Some of you that might be trying to get into infosec, you might have a record that is absolutely what people are looking for, but there might be a chance that the resume isn't exactly working for you. And so we want to make sure that we're tightening everything down. We're making the resume just absolutely pop, so that way whenever you walk into your interview, you have everything down. They know that you're on top of it and you're ready to go. So this is a sample resume that we're actually going to go ahead and walk through. But first things first, you're going to notice this is all on one page. You might get different opinions on this, and this is just the information that I've got. So, if you have a different opinion on this, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, especially if you're just starting off. There's no reason to have more than one page for your resume. And really, you want to keep it one page either way to keep it succinct and relevant to the organization that you are interviewing for. As you can see on this resume, on this sample resume, I'm listing 3 separate companies that you can use as an example of your experience. And if you have several positions going back in your career so far, then you'd want to list in order of relevance the most relevant, obviously, jobs that you've had towards the role that you're applying for. So it might even help to categorize the kinds of organizations that you're applying to and have resumes built for those categories. And you're kind of editing it along the way, but you have a solid resume for each one that's relevant to the target organization. Now, another thing, you want to keep it neat. And I've heard some people say that, you want it all black and white. I've seen some people incorporate color into their resume. As you can see on this one, I have like a light blue on the header, and you can see it on these links up here. It literally, as long as it is consistent to your resume, you don't have separate colors. This is the same color. It's bold here, so it looks like a darker shade of blue. You want to make sure that it is neat, it is orderly, and there's not just formatting errors all over the place. Another thing is you want to clearly define the sections of your resume. So you can see general information here up top. We got the name, we got some just general information about me. We got over here any kind of certifications or anything. Then you got your professional experiences, you got your technical projects, and then you got kind of like your leadership and skills, and then your education. And so these are the kinds of sections that you want to include on your resume, and just really try to fit everything under those categories. Now, please know that the order in which these sections are presented, it's literally, I've heard, put the technical projects up top. I've heard keep the professional experience on top. I've heard put the education up top. You'll get different answers from different people. Definitely find what works for you. Definitely find what fits the, organization that you're going after. It might even vary industry to industry. You might have people of a different industry kind of suggesting different things for their resume formats. A lot of it does kind of come down to that kind of like industry-wide preference. So, do some research, talk to some people. This is kind of what's worked for me so far. There might come a time where I'll, continue to shift this around and build it out differently. But generally, and we're talking in broad generalizations here, this is kind of what you want to do. Now, a note on formatting. You definitely want to make sure that everything's lined up. Very as close to perfect as you can. For instance, here everything's going to be lined up along the left side. On the right side, you want to have everything on a perfect line. You don't want any spelling errors. Here in the comment section, you'll have, again, because this is literally just a demo resume, this isn't obviously real text down here, but you want to make sure that you have proper grammar in the bodies of your resume descriptions. It's just looking good. Definitely try to find somebody that's good at resumes. Like I have my wife that I fall back on, and she really helps me put together a better resume. Have them look over it. They'll be able to catch some of those for you if you might have missed some of them. Definitely do your own proofreading. get different opinions on what might work. And it might even help if you have a friend that works at an organization that you're applying for, have them look at it too. And they'll be able to give you feedback on, kind of what resume that their, HR staff are looking for. Now, let's go top to bottom for this resume. Up here, we got the name. You want your name big, bold, this is your resume. Include, your city. You can include your city, your email, your phone number, just the general means to contact you. Let's say you have a website, or you have you're or some sort of like a LinkedIn, or you're producing some sort of content, you're doing write-ups or some sort of a project that you're presenting outward. You can include those in hyperlinks here. These are hyperlinks, and you can, if you don't want these to be shaded a certain color, you can actually change that in the text color itself. I have it blue just because I want the links to stand out as different and let people know that if they're seeing the digital copy, that it is a hyperlink. Then next, if you have some sort of a clearance, maybe you'd want to list that up top, because that is, of course, important for whatever organization you're applying for. That might be interesting to them, especially if they're looking for someone with a clearance. If you have certifications, you also want to list that off up here. Definitely include that you have them, because that might get you through an HR firewall. A lot of them will literally just filter out resumes that don't include a specific keyword, which might be the title for a clearance or for a certification. Now, a note on this section here. You'll get a bunch of different opinions. Personally, for me, I don't know where I fall on this one. So, ignore any of my opinions here. But some people will say include aspiring or you are working on blah, blah, blah. Obviously you'd word that a bit differently. But if you're working towards a certification actively, then you would basically express that in a very, succinct way here as well. And that will get you through the HR filter and let them know, okay, you are working through it, you might know some of the material, and then you can kind of really get to the position where you're interviewing with human beings, and then you can communicate that out. I've seen some people say don't do that. I've seen some people say do that. Continue to talk to people about that for you, what works best for your situation, but more specifically, what works best for the organization that you are applying for, because that might change. So we've got all of that up top. Next, I have professional experience. Now, again, sometimes you'll have people say, okay, then the next top should be your technical projects, then professional experience. Again, we're going with this for here, whatever works best for you, however you want to order the sections, do that. But for professional experience, I've listed off 3 separate companies. Now you can see company, the position title, and then over here on the right-hand side, we've got location, and then we've got our start and end date. Now, if you are currently working at a company, then instead of an end date, you would just want to put present to express that it is a current employer. So start time and then present. Now, for these points, and this is super important, you want to use active speech whenever you're describing your 3 points for your current position. So you are actively blah, blah, blahing, but you also, something that you want to do is include, specific numbers and express a specific impact. So let's say you are building out some sort of an environment using X number of devices, or building X number of endpoints with Y impact. So again, you want to be specific. If you don't know the true number, or maybe you can approximate, but you want to include a number, right? Make sure that you're doing that. And you're going to do that for all 3 points. And so make sure that you're doing that. Now you'll notice on this resume, there's a ton of white space down here. That's because each of these is only 1 line. This resume will fill out as each one of these, descriptor lines become 2 lines, because of course you're going to be conveying a lot in those sections, and you can play with the size of your words and stuff like that to kind of fit this all onto 1 page and make it nice and formatted. For previous jobs, you're going to be speaking in past tense, but you're still going to be specific about impact. So you blah, blah, blah with X number of resources with Y impact. You're going to do that for all 3 things. So, so company 2 you liked, you commented, and you subscribed to StudioSec. And that had, a solid impact. That's a terrible example, and you made me happy. Great. And then company 3, you're continuing to be past tense. You're continuing to specify in numbers what you used and what you did and the impact. If there's a dollar amount that you can include, that might be interesting, because, companies like to save money. So if you're saving the company money, that might be something that you want to include. If you save time, if you made something more efficient, try to express the improving of efficiency in this line. Now the next section for technical projects. On this sample resume, I include 2 technical projects. You could include a third, but again, you want to try to fit this all on one page, so, you know, play around with it. But you want to include, you know, your project title, the type of project, whether it was personal, school, work, what have you. Try to express, like, why are you working on a project, or why did you work on a project? What was the goal, or like the mission statement, right? And then you're just like with your, you know, company experience, you want to make sure that it is past tense, but you did include impact and your scope in some sort of a specified manner. Definitely be sure that you are including the outcome here. What was the point? And you can actually do the steps here. Say if you could explain the steps in 2 steps and then like what the impact was, play around with it, workshop it, just try to do that. Now say you're working multiple projects, only include the projects that are relevant to the position. You definitely don't want to like include some project that like, you know, oh, I built like a gingerbread house. Whenever you're applying for some sort of like a cybersecurity job, you know, that might not make a ton of sense. Now the next section is going to be leadership and skills. You know, you want to express these kinds of things if you have them. Of course you're going to have skills, so list the skills out here. Again, those are going to come up as keywords whenever, you know, the HR staff are trying to filter out resumes. So don't lie on any part of the resume. Don't lie here. But you want to make sure that you incorporate as many skills as you can. I've seen a lot of people say don't include Microsoft Office if you're applying for a cybersecurity job, because that's implied. You know, whether or not you choose to include that, that's on you. I have no opinion, frankly. But what do I know? Language, if you have any language experience, maybe that's interesting. Any leadership experience you might have, so that way you can show that you are capable of upward movement. And then volunteer experience, that might be very helpful as well. And then education, you know, your school location, and then you're gonna, here on the far right, you're gonna have your graduation date, your degree title. Some people will say include your GPA. I've heard include it if it's at a certain range, if it's over 3.5. As you can tell, my GPA is not listed. and then if any kind of like time abroad is relevant, you know, you can include that as well. Now, I actually tweeted out a request for information from you guys on, you know, what your tips were on resume building, and you guys sure delivered. For instance, Tish mentions here, list all of your soft skills as well. They add to your overall experience. Use the CAR method, context, action, result. And we actually talked about this whenever you're talking about the different points from your job experience. Here, Davin Jackson mentioned, you know, add any of these if they are applicable, blogs, projects, CTFs, hackathons, meetups, stuff like that. Do try to do a write-up of 2 to 3 Vulnhub or Hack the Box machines if you've rooted them in detail to show methodology and process of going through that. And that's, you know, absolutely awesome. And you can hyperlink those. You can include those as a technical project. You can list them off if you have a blog up top like we looked at. Red Skull mentions be honest, list your soft skills, get involved in the community. Anything that doesn't fit into a section can be worked into your personal statement. That's very true. I mean, emphasis on be honest. I've seen a lot of people talk about dishonesty when applying for certain jobs, and that kind of blows my mind. Anonymous says become a black hat. No, stay legal. Marie says less is more. Ask someone if in doubt. Absolutely ask someone if in doubt. Ask them if in doubt, and that might mean, you know, the employer that you're applying to. That's a good one. No colors unless you're in a creative position. Keywords are everything. And then ask others in the community. They probably have templates to share. That's absolutely true. Just kind of gonna scroll through here. Cyber Warrior says include a blog, website, or GitHub to your resume. Definitely good. Attend local chapter meetings. I mean, those are a great way to network. I know we're, you know, hopefully coming out of COVID here to a point where a lot of those are going to be in person. Definitely, you know, be involved in those. Don't be shy, to that horn. That is a good one. This is a really good graph, I think, that shows common resume pitfalls. And, you know, obviously this is all a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about. So definitely look through this, and I'm going to include a link to this thread in the description. So definitely check it out. You know, definitely check that thread out as well while you're building your resume. And if this video has been helpful, definitely hit that like button and share this with a friend. And, you know, always just reach out to people for advice whenever you're trying to build your resume. definitely make sure that you're workshopping it, you have a few people look over it, and it's the best that it can possibly be for the applet or for the organization that you're applying to. So with all that, I will see you all next time.